I remember the day it all started like it was yesterday, ordinary, at first. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden light over the city. I had just wrapped up a tedious day at my small advertising firm and was heading back to my apartment in the West Village. The typical hum of the city, the sound of cars honking, people laughing, and the smell of food carts lining the streets, was all I could focus on. Life was good, but uneventful. I had no idea that an envelope waiting for me in my mailbox would change everything. The envelope was thick, crisp, and sealed with a gold emblem. At first, I thought it was just another one of those promotional credit card offers or maybe something from my lawyer regarding the taxes I had been procrastinating on. But no. The letter inside was different. It felt heavier, almost weighty with significance. The type on the front was bold, neatly printed with my full name, Adam Williams. There was no return address. My fingers tingled as I pulled it from the envelope and unfolded the pages inside. What I read left me frozen in disbelief. The letter was from a law firm in Los Angeles, specifically from a lawyer named Richard Haley. And according to this letter, I had inherited a vast fortune, $23 million. Yes, you read that right. $23 million. My heart skipped a beat. The letter went on to explain that I had inherited the sum from Edward Hawthorne, a name I did not recognize. The lawyer mentioned that Edward had passed away recently and had left behind instructions in his will, detailing that I would receive this substantial inheritance. But the strangest part was that I wasn't related to him. I had never met him, nor did I recall hearing my late father speak of him. The letter vaguely mentioned a connection through my father's past, but it didn't elaborate further. I sat there for a long while, the letter still clutched in my hands. $23 million. How could this be possible? It felt like a scam at first. But everything in the letter was so official, so detailed, and the lawyer's name checked out when I Googled it. I didn't know what to think. A part of me was afraid to even consider the possibility that this could be real. My life wasn't the kind that involved sudden windfalls or family legacies. My father had passed away when I was young, and I had been raised by my mother, who did what she could to give me a good life, but we weren't wealthy. We were comfortable, nothing more. This inheritance? It didn't make sense. I took a deep breath and dialed the number provided in the letter. A receptionist picked up, and within minutes, I was connected to Richard Haley, the lawyer mentioned in the letter. Mr. Williams, he greeted me in a warm but professional tone. It's good to finally speak with you. I trust you've received the documents regarding your inheritance? I have, I stammered. But I'm not sure I understand. Edward Hawthorne? Who was he? How did I end up receiving this inheritance? There was a slight pause on the other end of the line before Richard spoke again, this time his tone slightly more serious. Mr. Hawthorne was a business associate of your late father, and he wanted to ensure that his legacy continued in the right hands. He knew you, Mr. Williams. Your father and Mr. Hawthorne had a relationship, though it was a private one. I would suggest you come to our office so we can explain everything in more detail. My mind raced as I tried to piece it all together. I had no recollection of my father ever mentioning anyone named Edward Hawthorne. It made no sense. But the lawyer's calm voice and the certainty in his words made it hard to ignore. It was real. I had inherited $23 million. And there was something deeper at play here, something that was about to turn my quiet life upside down. The next day, I found myself boarding a flight to Los Angeles. The law firm had scheduled an appointment for me to meet with the executor of the estate, a woman named Isabella Gray. Richard had told me she would be the one to explain the finer details of the inheritance. As I stepped off the plane in California, the weight of the situation felt heavier. This was no longer just about money. This was about something bigger, something connected to my father's past, something I had never known. I had no idea what I was walking into, but I knew my life was about to change forever. I arrived at the law firm, a sleek, modern building in downtown Los Angeles. The lobby was pristine, with towering windows offering a view of the city. As I waited, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was stepping into a world that wasn't mine. A few minutes later, a woman entered the lobby. She was tall, striking, with dark hair pulled back into a neat bun and sharp, intelligent eyes. She wore a fitted black suit that made her look both powerful and poised. Her name, as I learned, was Isabella Gray. "Mr. Williams," she said with a small, welcoming smile, extending her hand. "Mr. Williams," she said with a small, welcoming smile, extending her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you." Her handshake was firm, but there was an edge to her professionalism that made me feel like I was in over my head. She led me into a private office with floor-to-ceiling windows, where the bright California sunlight poured in. As we sat down, I could feel my heart beating faster. There were so many questions, but I didn't even know where to start. Isabella wasted no time. "Mr. Williams," she began, "there are a few things you need to know. Edward Hawthorne was a complicated man. His relationship with your father was unconventional. The inheritance you've received is not just about money, it's about a legacy that has been hidden for years. And you are now at the center of it." I blinked, my mind trying to catch up. "What do you mean, a legacy?" She leaned forward, her gaze intense. "You're not just inheriting money, Mr. Williams. You're inheriting a responsibility. And there's someone else you need to meet. Someone who holds the key to understanding everything about Edward Hawthorne's past, and your own future." I sat back, completely stunned. "Who?" She smiled faintly. "Her name is Olivia Hawthorne. Edward's daughter." Isabella's words hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. My mind was racing as I tried to piece together the cryptic message she had just delivered. A responsibility? A hidden legacy? And now, a woman named Olivia Hawthorne, who I had never heard of, was apparently the key to everything? It felt like I had stepped into some dark mystery I wasn't prepared for. I looked at Isabella, trying to make sense of it all. "Olivia Hawthorne?" I repeated, still trying to wrap my head around the idea. "Why does she matter? What does she have to do with this inheritance?" Isabella leaned back in her chair, her hands folded neatly on the desk in front of her. She studied me for a long moment before responding, her tone shifting to something more measured, more serious. "Olivia is Edward's only living heir, aside from you. She and her father were estranged for many years, but before his death, Edward decided to leave his fortune in your hands, under certain conditions. The money, the properties, the assets, those are just a small part of it. The real value is in what you inherit from Edward's past. And Olivia, she is the person you need to meet in order to understand the full scope of what has been left to you." I tried to digest what she was saying, but it was like trying to solve a puzzle with pieces that didn't fit. "You're saying I've inherited not just money, but something else, something tied to Edward's past? And I need to meet this woman, Olivia, to understand it?" Isabella nodded. "Precisely. There are things Edward did in his life that he never shared with anyone, not even with his daughter. But he believed you would be the one to uncover them. That's why you were chosen, Mr. Williams." "Chosen?" The word felt heavy in my mouth. "Why me? I don't know anything about Edward Hawthorne or his life. I don't even know what you're talking about." Isabella's expression softened slightly, as if she understood the confusion in my voice. "I know this is a lot to take in. But the truth is, your father and Edward were involved in something important. It was a business arrangement, of sorts, but it was far more complicated than just a financial transaction. And when your father passed away, Edward made a choice. He decided that the only person who could carry on his work, and uncover the truth, was you." I sat back in my chair, the weight of her words settling over me like a heavy blanket. I wasn't a part of some family secret or business empire. I was just a guy who worked in advertising, trying to make ends meet. Yet, somehow, I had been chosen for something far bigger than I could have imagined. "This is crazy," I muttered, mostly to myself. I'm not prepared for this. I don't know anything about whatever it is you're talking about." Isabella didn't seem fazed by my shock. "You don't need to understand everything right now, Mr. Williams. What matters is that you go to the Hawthorne estate and meet Olivia. She knows more than anyone else about what's at stake here. She might be the one to help you unravel it all." I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread creeping in. Meeting Olivia Hawthorne felt like a step into the unknown. What if she didn't want to meet me? What if she was just as lost as I was? What if I was being dragged into a world of secrets I wasn't prepared for? But Isabella's gaze was unwavering, her confidence in the situation almost unnerving. "Olivia will be expecting you. She's been told about the inheritance, and she understands the gravity of what's happened. She's been waiting for this moment for a long time, Mr. Williams. And now, so have you." The finality in her words left me with little room for hesitation. I had no choice. I was already in this deep, whether I liked it or not. The only thing left to do was meet this mysterious woman, Olivia Hawthorne, and learn whatever it was that Edward Hawthorne had planned for me. "Okay," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Where do I meet her?" Isabella smiled, the first genuine smile I had seen from her since I walked in. "You'll be flying to the Hawthorne estate in Malibu tomorrow morning. Olivia is expecting you at noon. I'll send you the details." I nodded, still trying to absorb everything she had told me. A fortune, a legacy, a woman I'd never met, all of it was in my hands now. I felt a strange mixture of excitement and fear as I stood up to leave. Whatever was waiting for me, I knew it was going to change my life forever. The next morning, I boarded a private flight to Malibu, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on me. The flight was quick, but every minute felt like an eternity as I thought about what I might discover. As the plane descended over the stunning coastal landscape, I couldn't help but feel small in comparison to the vast wealth and history I was about to walk into. The Hawthorne estate was a sprawling mansion perched on a cliff, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It was breathtaking, elegant, imposing, and beautiful all at once. The driver who picked me up from the airport didn't say much during the short ride, but he had a quiet, professional air about him. When we reached the estate, I couldn't help but feel like I was stepping into a world that was completely foreign to me. The mansion loomed ahead, its grand architecture standing stark against the clear blue sky. As I walked up the steps to the front door, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into something much bigger than myself. The door opened before I could knock, revealing a woman standing in front of me. She was tall, with long, dark hair that framed her face perfectly. Her eyes were intense, a deep shade of green that seemed to pierce right through me. She was beautiful, but there was something more about her, a presence that commanded attention. "You must be Adam," she said, her voice soft but confident. "I'm Olivia Hawthorne." For the first time, I felt the weight of the inheritance and everything that had led me here. I didn't know what to say, but the one thing I did know was that my life was never going to be the same. As Olivia stepped aside to let me into the grand hallway of the estate, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The house was beautiful, more like a museum than a home, with towering windows that overlooked the vast ocean, and every room exuding elegance. The walls were adorned with classic art pieces, antique furniture, and a quiet air of opulence. It felt like a world far removed from the life I knew, and yet here I was, about to meet the woman whose life was intertwined with mine in a way I couldn't even comprehend. Olivia closed the door behind us, her eyes studying me carefully, as if trying to read me. I did my best to keep my composure, but it was impossible to ignore the swirl of questions racing through my mind. She led me into a sitting room, a comfortable but lavish space, with soft lighting and large bookshelves filled with old books. The room was quiet, almost too quiet. It felt like something important was about to happen, like the calm before a storm. "Please, sit," Olivia said, gesturing toward a pair of armchairs positioned by a large fireplace. Her voice was calm, measured, but there was an intensity to it that I couldn't ignore. "I'm sure you have a lot of questions, Adam. And I promise, I'll answer them. But first, there's something you need to understand." I sat down, feeling like I was about to embark on a journey that would change everything. "What's going on, Olivia?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Why was I chosen for this? Why did Edward leave all of this to me? Olivia didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked over to a nearby cabinet, opened it, and pulled out 2 glasses and a bottle of scotch. She poured a generous amount into each glass before handing one to me. I took it without hesitation, grateful for something to steady my nerves. She took a sip of her own drink and sat down across from me, her eyes meeting mine with a directness that made me feel both uneasy and intrigued. "Edward wasn't just a businessman, Adam," she began, her voice now quieter, more intimate. "He was part of something much larger, something secret, something that has been hidden for years. And you were part of the plan all along." I couldn't help but lean forward, trying to catch every word. "What do you mean, I was part of the plan? I don't even know the man. How could I be a part of anything?" She shook her head slowly, as if weighing her words carefully. "Edward knew your father. They were connected in a way that went beyond business. Your father was part of a group that was involved in something powerful, a network of influence that reached far beyond what most people understand. But when your father died, things began to unravel. And Edward believed that you were the key to restoring what was lost." I sat there in stunned silence, the scotch burning in my throat. "What kind of group? What are you talking about?" Olivia's expression darkened slightly, her gaze turning distant for a moment. "It's called the Circle. A clandestine network that's been operating in the shadows for decades. They deal in information, power, and influence. They've been shaping events, controlling markets, and even steering political decisions. But they've always operated in the shadows, out of the public eye. And your father, he was a part of it." I blinked, trying to process what she was saying. "Are you saying my father was involved in some kind of secret organization?" "Yes," Olivia replied quietly. "And so was Edward. But the truth is, Adam, this isn't just about them anymore. This is about you. And now that you've inherited everything from Edward, you're not just inheriting money, you're inheriting a legacy. A legacy that has the power to change everything." I leaned back in my chair, overwhelmed by the weight of her words. "I don't understand. How does this all connect to me?" Olivia set her glass down on the table, her eyes locking with mine. "Edward left you the money, yes. But he also left you something far more valuable. He left you the keys to the Circle's legacy, information, connections, and influence. And he believed you were the one who could either dismantle it, or take control of it." My heart was racing now. This was beyond anything I could have imagined. I was a nobody, just a man trying to live a quiet life in New York. And now, I was being told I had inherited not just wealth, but a hidden legacy tied to power and secrets that reached across the globe. "How do you know all of this?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "What's your role in all of this? Why are you helping me?" She hesitated for a moment, then let out a slow breath. "Edward's will made it clear that I was to guide you. He trusted me with the responsibility of helping you understand what you've inherited. I've been managing the estate for years, but there's much more to this than just money or property. The Circle is still out there, Adam. And people will do anything to control it. Some will want to use you, and some will want to destroy you." I took another sip of my drink, trying to steady my racing thoughts. What am I supposed to do with all of this? I don't even know where to begin. Olivia's gaze softened slightly, but there was still an intensity in her eyes. "You have to decide what kind of man you want to be, Adam. The power that comes with this inheritance isn't just about money, it's about control. The people who built this legacy want to use it to shape the future. But you have the opportunity to change that. To decide what happens next. I set my glass down, my hands shaking slightly. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want any of this. Olivia leaned forward, her voice calm but insistent. I know you didn't. But now that you're here, you can't turn back. Edward believed you were capable of handling this. And you don't have to do it alone. I'll help you, but you have to make the decision. Will you accept your place in this legacy, or will you fight to destroy it? The room seemed to close in around me, the weight of her words sinking in. Everything had changed in the span of a few hours. I had come here expecting a simple inheritance, but now I was facing a choice that would define the rest of my life. And I had no idea what I was supposed to do. Olivia's words echoed in my mind long after she had finished speaking. Will you accept your place in this legacy, or will you fight to destroy it? She had given me a choice, but it felt more like a trap. How could I possibly make a decision like that? I had inherited $23 million, yes, but I had also inherited a web of secrets and a dangerous legacy that seemed to stretch far beyond anything I could comprehend. I was sitting in a room full of expensive art, plush furniture, and ocean views, but it felt like I was suffocating. This was supposed to be a moment of triumph, of gratitude for an unexpected windfall. Instead, it felt like a noose tightening around my neck. I don't even know where to start, I said, my voice strained. I didn't ask for this. I was just trying to live my life, Olivia. Olivia didn't flinch. She had been calm and composed the entire time, as if she were speaking from experience. No one asks for this, Adam. But life doesn't give us choices we're ready for. Edward knew you weren't prepared, but he believed in you. He thought you could make the right decision. But this isn't just about the money. It's about something much more dangerous. I stood up, pacing the room, trying to shake off the suffocating weight of it all. Dangerous? You're telling me that I'm inheriting a fortune, and now I'm supposed to become part of some shadow organization? This sounds like something out of a movie. A spy thriller or some twisted conspiracy. I'm not cut out for this. I'm just a regular guy. Olivia's expression didn't change. That's exactly what makes you the perfect candidate. You're not part of the old guard. You don't have the same motivations or baggage. You're fresh, and you can see things differently. But there are those who will try to manipulate you. Some want you to join them and continue Edward's work. Others want to use you for their own purposes. And there are people who will stop at nothing to destroy you, and the legacy you've inherited. The words, destroy you, lingered in the air. My mind raced. This was bigger than I could have imagined. I had no idea what I was walking into, but I had already crossed a line. There was no going back now. I turned to face her, my hands gripping the back of a chair for support. What do you want me to do? What exactly is this circle? What's it about? She looked at me for a long moment, as if considering how much to reveal. Finally, she spoke, her voice low but filled with an edge of warning. The circle is a network, Adam. A global one. It was built by Edward and a handful of others, wealthy, powerful individuals who controlled industries, governments, and entire countries. They operate in the shadows, influencing world events from behind the scenes. Money is just a small part of it. Their real power is in their ability to manipulate information, people, and events to achieve their goals. I felt a chill run through me as I tried to digest what she was saying. You're telling me that these people, this circle, controls things? Like governments? Like the stock market? How is that even possible? Olivia's eyes narrowed, her gaze piercing. It's not just about money, Adam. It's about control. And control is power. They have a network of people everywhere, inside governments, media, corporations. They can make things happen, or stop them from happening, with a single phone call, a single piece of information. They don't do things by the book. They don't care about laws or morality. They do what it takes to get results. And that's why they need someone like you. I shook my head, my thoughts spinning. I don't want to be a part of that. I didn't ask for any of this. Olivia leaned forward, her expression intense. You're already a part of it. Edward left you everything because he knew you had the potential to understand how this world works. You don't have to join them. You don't have to take on the full responsibility. But you can't just walk away from it either. You've been chosen, Adam. You can either take control of what's yours and make a choice about how to use it, or let others decide for you. Her words hit me like a punch. I was caught in the middle of something I didn't understand, but I knew she was right. There was no walking away from this. I had to make a decision. But how could I possibly choose? What's the catch, Olivia? I asked, my voice low. What's the price of all this? If I decide to take control of the inheritance, what do I have to give up? She paused, her gaze steady. The price is your freedom, Adam. Once you're in, there's no going back. You'll be bound to the circle, to the legacy. You'll be forced to make decisions that will affect the lives of millions of people, whether you like it or not. You will be in control, but at the cost of your own freedom. And the people who want to use you? They'll stop at nothing to get what they want. I felt my pulse quicken. This was getting darker by the minute. The money didn't seem so appealing anymore. In fact, it felt like a burden, a heavy weight that I wasn't sure I could carry. What do you want me to do? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Olivia stood up, walking over to the large window that looked out over the ocean. She stared out at the vast expanse of water, her expression unreadable. I want you to make the right choice, Adam. You have the power to change the world, but you also have the power to destroy it. What kind of man do you want to be? A puppet of the circle, or a man who decides his own fate? I swallowed hard, trying to understand the magnitude of the decision in front of me. I had never imagined that a simple inheritance could come with so much weight. But now, it was clear, I wasn't just inheriting money. I was inheriting a world of power, secrets, and responsibility that could either destroy me, or make me the most influential person in the world. As Olivia turned back to face me, I knew I was standing on the edge of something I could never go back from. My next move would change everything. The ocean breeze swept through the open window, and for a moment, I let the silence settle in. The weight of Olivia's words, of the inheritance, the circle, and the responsibility that came with it, hung over me like a dark cloud. I had never wanted this. I had never asked for it. But it was here, and there was no way to escape it. I looked at Olivia, who stood across from me, her eyes waiting for an answer, waiting for me to make the choice that would define everything that came next. She had given me the facts, the raw truth of what this inheritance meant, the power it offered, and the price that came with it. Now, it was up to me. But how could I decide? How could I choose between a life I'd always known, simple, quiet, and relatively peaceful, and the one that awaited me if I took control of the circle? The temptation of power was there, undeniable, but the cost was steep. My freedom, my conscience, my very soul, all would be tied to this shadowy network of influence. Olivia, I don't know if I can do this, I said, my voice a little hoarse. I don't even understand half of what you're telling me. You say I have the power to change things, but at what cost? What happens if I choose wrong? She stepped closer, her expression softening, though her eyes still carried that unwavering intensity. There's no wrong answer, Adam. It's not about right or wrong, it's about what kind of person you want to be. You can choose to be a puppet, living under the influence of the circle, or you can break free and carve your own path. But you can't hide from the truth. This is your legacy now, whether you like it or not. And the longer you wait, the more people will begin to notice. Her words cut through me like a sharp blade. She was right. I couldn't just sit here and ignore what was happening. Every second I hesitated, the circle grew closer. And the people who were behind it wouldn't wait for me to catch up. If I didn't act, they'd act for me. I stood up abruptly, pacing the room as my mind raced. What if I don't want any part of it? What if I just want to take the money and walk away? Just leave it all behind? Olivia didn't flinch. You can't walk away, Adam. Not now. Not when you've inherited so much. The circle has its eyes on you. If you refuse to play their game, they'll make sure you regret it. I stopped pacing, turning to face her. So, I'm stuck. There's no way out? She sighed, crossing her arms, her eyes softening with a touch of empathy. It's not that simple. The circle's reach is long. Even if you refuse to take control, they won't let you go so easily. You'll always be a part of it, whether you like it or not. That's why Edward left you the inheritance. He knew you were the only one who could change the course of things. He trusted you with that power. I felt the weight of her words settle in my chest. It wasn't just about the money, it was about something far bigger. The circle wasn't just a group of rich, powerful people pulling strings from the shadows. It was a force that could shape the world. And I was caught in the middle of it. I looked out the window at the ocean, trying to clear my mind. I had always prided myself on making logical decisions, weighing the pros and cons. But this? This was different. There was no logic here. There were only choices, and each one came with a price. I don't want to hurt anyone, I said quietly. I don't want to get involved in something that could destroy people's lives. Olivia's gaze softened as she walked over to stand beside me. You're not the one who will destroy lives, Adam. The people behind the circle have been doing that for years. What you decide will either allow them to continue, or it will stop them. I closed my eyes, the weight of her words crashing down on me. I had always believed that good people had the power to change things. But now, I was learning that the world was far more complicated than I had imagined. The circle wasn't just a group of criminals, it was a system. A system that controlled everything. And now, it had its eyes on me. What happens if I accept? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. If I take control of what Edward left me, what happens to me? Olivia didn't hesitate. If you accept, you'll have the power to change the future. You'll be able to reshape the world, control the flow of information, influence decisions that affect millions. You'll have the resources to fight back against the people who are using the circle for their own gain. But you'll also have enemies. Powerful ones. And you'll never truly be free. I felt the truth of her words sink in, and for a moment, I was paralyzed by the weight of it all. I had always dreamed of a better life, of having the power to do good in the world. But I had never imagined that it would come at such a steep price. But then, I remembered why I was here. Why Edward had left me this inheritance. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the responsibility. If I turned my back on this, I would be allowing the people behind the circle to continue their reign of power and influence. I would be a part of the system, just as much as they were. I can't walk away, I said finally, the decision settling in my chest. I have to do this. I have to take control. Olivia's eyes flickered with something, relief, maybe, or approval. Good, she said, her voice soft. But remember, Adam, once you accept, there's no going back. The circle will come after you, whether you're ready or not. And you'll have to fight to keep your soul in the process. I nodded, a mixture of fear and determination flooding through me. This was it. I had made my choice. Now, Olivia said, standing up and walking toward the door, we begin. The first step is meeting the others. You can't do this alone. I followed her out of the room, my heart pounding. The future had just been laid out in front of me, and now I had to walk the path I had chosen. There was no turning back. After I made the decision to accept the inheritance and take control of what Edward had left behind, the reality of my new world began to set in. I wasn't just a regular guy anymore. I was part of something much larger, something dangerous, and I wasn't sure I was ready for it. Olivia led me out of the sitting room and down a long hallway, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The estate was silent, the kind of silence that made you feel like every inch of the house was watching you. It was almost as if the walls themselves were steeped in secrets, waiting to be uncovered. We walked into a large dining room where a long, polished table sat in the center, surrounded by high-backed chairs. At the far end of the room, there were two people standing, both sharply dressed, their faces hidden in shadows. The moment I stepped inside, I could feel the weight of their gazes on me. I wasn't just meeting these people, I was walking into their world. "This is where it all begins," Olivia said quietly, her tone barely audible. "This is the circle." I didn't know what to expect, but what I saw in front of me wasn't a group of shadowy figures hiding behind dark corners. These people were powerful, too powerful to be underestimated. The man on the left was tall, with salt and pepper hair and a face that could have belonged to a senator or a CEO. He had an air of quiet authority, but it was the kind of authority that made you feel small without saying a word. The woman on the right was just as striking, tall, with platinum blonde hair and an icy demeanor. She wore a sleek black dress, and her eyes were cold and calculating. The two of them stood in front of me, silent, waiting. Olivia stepped forward, breaking the tension. "This is Adam Williams," she said, her voice firm. "He's the new inheritor of the Hawthorne legacy. He's the one Edward left everything to." The man stepped forward first, his gaze never leaving me. "Adam," he said, his voice deep and steady. "I'm Marcus Blackwood. This," he gestured to the woman beside him, "is Isabel Hart. We are part of the circle. And you are now a part of it." Isabel's eyes glinted with something I couldn't quite place, but there was a coldness to her smile that sent a chill down my spine. "I don't know how Edward convinced you to take on this burden, but we are glad you're here," she said, her voice smooth, almost predatory. "You'll learn quickly, Adam. You'll have to if you want to survive." I stood there, unsure of how to respond. This wasn't what I had expected. I had imagined meeting a few faceless executives or some corporate types, but not this. These people weren't just involved in business, they were the architects of power itself. They were the ones who made the decisions that shaped the world, and now, I was in their world. "What do you want from me?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. "What is this circle really about?" Marcus chuckled darkly, but it wasn't a laugh of humor. It was a laugh that made you feel like you were just a pawn in a much larger game. "It's not about what we want from you, Adam. It's about what you want from us. You've inherited Edward's place in the circle. You're now one of us. The question is, how far are you willing to go to protect this legacy?" I swallowed hard, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. This wasn't just about wealth or power. This was about control, and the lengths to which these people would go to keep it. How do I even begin to understand what this legacy means? What do I do now? Isabel stepped forward, her heels clicking with each step. "First, you learn about the people you're now connected to. The circle is more than just a group of wealthy individuals. It's a network that controls everything. Information, influence, resources, it all flows through us. And now, it flows through you. But don't think for a second that this comes without responsibility." Marcus moved closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You will be tested, Adam. You'll face choices that will define who you become. And not everyone in this room will have your best interests at heart. There are those who will try to manipulate you, use you. And there are those who will want to destroy you, because they see you as a threat to their power. I felt a shiver run down my spine. The weight of his words hit me harder than I had expected. This wasn't some exclusive club I had been invited to. This was a world of ruthless ambition, manipulation, and betrayal. And I was already in it, whether I liked it or not. Olivia stepped in then, sensing my unease. "Don't worry, Adam. You won't have to navigate this alone. We'll help you. But you need to understand that the circle is not a place for the weak. If you want to survive, you have to adapt. And you have to be willing to fight for your place." I looked at the three of them, Marcus, Isabel, and Olivia, and realized that my decision had already set me on a path I couldn't turn back from. I had inherited more than just wealth. I had inherited a legacy that came with consequences I wasn't ready for. But there was no turning back now. The circle had its claws in me, and the only way forward was to play their game, and survive. Olivia smiled faintly. "I'm going to take you to see something important. It's time you learned more about what you're really inheriting." Olivia led me out of the dining room, her footsteps steady and deliberate, like someone who had long ago accepted the weight of the world on her shoulders. Marcus and Isabel followed us in silence, as if they were part of the same grand performance. The house felt cold now, the elegance of the estate no longer a symbol of luxury, but of the darkness that had taken root within its walls. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything here was a facade, and that I was about to be shown what lay behind it. We descended a winding staircase, and as we moved deeper into the house, the surroundings grew more enclosed, almost claustrophobic. I felt like I was stepping into a world that was far removed from anything I had ever known, a world where power was the only currency, and those who controlled it dictated the rules. Olivia led me through a long corridor that seemed to stretch on forever. The walls were lined with old portraits of serious-looking men and women, their eyes following us as we passed. At the end of the corridor, she stopped in front of a heavy metal door. It didn't match the rest of the house. This door was industrial, cold, and impersonal. "This is where the real work is done," Olivia said, her voice low. She glanced at me before unlocking the door and pushing it open. What I saw beyond the door made my stomach churn. The room was large, filled with screens, computers, and rows of filing cabinets. It looked like a control center, but not just any control center. This was where decisions were made, decisions that shaped the world. The air felt thick with purpose. I could sense that I was standing in the nerve center of something massive, something that extended far beyond the mansion and the circle itself. "This," Olivia said, gesturing to the room, "is where the circle operates. This is where we monitor everything, every piece of information, every move made by the people who run the world. Governments, corporations, military forces, everything." I stepped closer to one of the screens. The feed showed live footage of various locations around the world, political rallies, stock market exchanges, boardrooms where major deals were being made. It was like watching the world unfold in real time, with the circle at the helm of it all. The control was palpable. "This is what Edward was a part of," Olivia continued, her voice steady. "And now, it's your responsibility." I turned to her, feeling a knot form in my throat. "What do you mean, my responsibility? I'm just one person. How can I control all of this? I don't even know what I'm looking at." "You're not supposed to control it all at once," she replied, walking over to one of the computer terminals. "But you'll have access to the resources. You'll be able to influence things on a smaller scale, and then work your way up. We start with the pieces you can control, the information, the networks, the deals. The money follows, as always." I felt a strange mix of awe and dread. This wasn't just wealth, it was power on a scale I couldn't have imagined. The kind of power that controlled industries, nations, and even history itself. And now, it was in my hands. Olivia seemed to sense my hesitation. "You don't have to make decisions alone. We'll guide you. The circle will help you learn, help you adapt. But you'll have to earn their trust. They're not interested in weak leaders. I swallowed hard, trying to process everything. And what happens if I refuse? What if I don't want to play this game? Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw something cold in her expression. Refuse, and you'll become a target. The circle doesn't tolerate weakness. They'll destroy you, Adam. And trust me, you don't want that. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wasn't just a part of the circle, I was now a part of something far more dangerous. I was in their world, and if I didn't play by their rules, would be discarded like an inconvenience. Olivia stepped closer, her voice softening. But don't think of it as a prison. Think of it as an opportunity. You have the power to shape the future, to make the decisions that no one else dares to make. You'll have the resources, the connections, and the influence to change the world. I looked at her, still uncertain. And what if I don't want to change the world? What if I just want to walk away from all of this? She studied me for a moment, her gaze unwavering. You can't walk away from power, Adam. Not when you've tasted it. And you've already crossed the line. The circle knows who you are now. You can't unmake this decision. I felt trapped. The inheritance had come with strings attached, strings that led to a web of power, secrets, and control that I wasn't prepared for. But now, there was no going back. The circle had its hold on me, and if I wanted to survive, I had to play along. As I turned away from the control center, I knew that my life would never be the same. The choices I made from here on out would have far-reaching consequences, not just for me, but for the world around me. And with every step I took, I was becoming more deeply entrenched in the game. I don't know if I'm ready for this, I muttered, more to myself than to Olivia. She placed a hand on my shoulder, her grip firm. You don't have to be ready, Adam. You just have to choose. And when you do, you'll never look back. The days after my meeting with Olivia were a blur. I had thought that making my decision, that choosing to step into this world of power, would have given me clarity. Instead, it only deepened the confusion and unease that had been growing since the moment I inherited Edward Hawthorne's fortune. The circle had shown me what it was capable of, and now, I was becoming more entrenched in it. My life, which had been simple just a few weeks ago, had become an endless series of meetings, briefings, and decisions that weighed on me like 1,000 pounds. I felt the world shift around me, and every day, I had to make choices that felt wrong, choices that turned my stomach. But the circle had made it clear, there was no turning back. I was a part of this world now, and whether I liked it or not, I had to play the game. Olivia had continued to guide me, showing me the ins and outs of the circle's operations, but the more I learned, the more I realized how little control I actually had. Every decision I made had consequences, and every move I made was being watched, not just by my allies, but by my enemies as well. The higher I climbed, the more dangerous the world became. And there were always people trying to drag you down. One night, Olivia called me into her office again. Her face was more serious than usual, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. She looked at me with a mixture of concern and something else, something I hadn't seen before. Adam, she said softly, it's time you understand the full extent of what's happening. I sat down in the chair across from her, my stomach twisting. What do you mean? She leaned forward, her fingers pressed together. The circle isn't just about wealth and power. It's about survival. And right now, there are forces inside the circle, and outside it, that are working against you. You've made enemies, and you need to be prepared for what's coming. I felt a cold chill run through me. What do you mean? Who's coming after me? Olivia's gaze hardened, and I could tell she was weighing how much to reveal. There are factions within the circle that want your position. There are others outside it who want to destroy everything you've built. And there are people you trust, who might not have your best interests at heart. I felt my pulse quicken. This wasn't just about wealth anymore. This wasn't even about power. This was about survival. And the people I had been working with, the ones I had thought were my allies, might be just as dangerous as the ones I had to fight. I stood up abruptly, my mind racing. How do I protect myself? How do I survive in this world? Olivia stood as well, her expression serious. You protect yourself by being smart, by making the right choices. The circle thrives on control. The moment you show weakness, the moment you hesitate, it will be the end of you. But if you're strong enough, if you make the right moves, you can survive. I looked at her, still trying to process what she was saying. And what happens if I don't want to be a part of this anymore? What if I want to walk away from all of this? Olivia's face softened for a brief moment, but it quickly hardened again. You can't walk away, Adam. Not now. You've made a decision, and that decision has consequences. You're in this, whether you like it or not. But you can still choose how it ends. The weight of her words hit me hard. I had made the decision to step into this world, to take control of the circle's legacy. But the more I learned, the more I realized how much I had given up in the process. My freedom, my peace of mind, my innocence, they were all gone. The circle had taken everything from me, and now, I was being forced to play by their rules. Olivia turned away from me, walking to the window and looking out over the estate. The ocean stretched out in front of us, calm and unyielding, just like the world I had entered. You have the power to change things, Adam, she said softly, her voice distant. But that power comes with a price. You can control your fate, but it won't come without sacrifice. I watched her for a moment, her silhouette framed by the fading light of the setting sun. And then, for the first time, I realized the truth: the price of power was higher than I had ever imagined. It wasn't just about making decisions, it was about losing pieces of yourself along the way. I was in too deep. There was no turning back. The circle had already claimed me, and now, I had to decide just how far I was willing to go to stay on top. But in this world, where trust was a commodity and every ally was a potential enemy, I knew the cost would be more than I could afford. As I left Olivia's office, the weight of my choices pressed down on me like a stone. The circle was a world of shadows, and I had stepped into it willingly. But now, I had to learn to survive in it. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for what came next. Author's note. This story is a reflection on the cost of power and the consequences of choices made in the pursuit of wealth and influence. Adam's journey illustrates how the thirst for control can change a person's life in ways they never expect. Ultimately, the circle is not just an organization, it's a force that shapes lives, molds destinies, and demands sacrifices. Adam's story, though fictional, serves as a reminder that the pursuit of power often comes with a price, one that may cost more than we are willing to give.